almost half of all Gen Xers have at least one tattoo. For 30 years, getting inked went from rebellious to the most socially accepted thing you could do. But a specific group of women sat out the entire movement, quietly, consistently, for decades. The majority of black women born in the 70s and 80s have zero tattoos. Nobody talks about why. People assume, oh, they just didn't want one. But psychologists and historians know the truth is way deeper and way more fascinating than that. This wasn't an accident. It was a silent rebellion. Think about it. Most people who don't have tattoos just haven't gotten one yet. But Black Gen X women watched the entire evolution. They saw the tribal armbands come and go, the Chinese characters nobody could actually read, the matching couple tattoos that outlasted the relationship by 15 years. They didn't miss the trend. They actively looked at it and said no every single time. Why? Because they possessed a psychological superpower most 20-somethings lack. They actually understood that they were going to change. Psychologists talk about a concept where young people look at their future selves and just see an older version of who they are right now. So a 22-year-old gets a tattoo because they think they'll love it forever. But Black Gen X women had already seen how fast life forces you to adapt and change. They had data on themselves. They knew the 40-year-old version of them wouldn't want to answer for a decision made by a 20-year-old on a whim. And guess what? Statistically, they were right. 1 in 4 tattooed Americans regrets their ink. But it goes deeper than just avoiding regret. It's about who actually owned their body. There's a famous psychological framework called the Superwoman Schema. It's the intense internal pressure many black women carry to always be strong, always be the caregiver, and always hold everything together. When you carry that weight, your body stops feeling like a place for personal expression. It becomes a vehicle for labor, survival, and performance. So when someone hands you a needle and asks, "What do you want to permanently mark on your skin just for fun?" it feels jarring. And we have to talk about history. For generations in America, black women's bodies were not their own sovereign territory. Decisions were made for them by outside forces. That kind of historical trauma doesn't just vanish. It gets inherited as a protective reflex, a reflex that says, what happens to this body will be decided carefully, deliberately, and never on a trend. For these women, leaving the skin blank wasn't a lack of choice. It was the ultimate choice. It was reclamation through restraint. There's another factor here. Gen X has the highest BS detector of any living generation. They loathe fake authenticity. When tattoos became mainstream, they weren't about individuality anymore. Everyone was buying the same trending aesthetics off a parlor wall. While everyone else accelerated, Black Gen X women slowed down. They realized that tattoo removal is expensive, incredibly painful, and usually leaves a ghost of the image behind. By refusing to follow the crowd, they protected themselves from a cost everyone else was blind to. In behavioral economics, a tattoo is called a costly signal. It says, look at what I went through to prove this is who I am. But a blank arm sends an even louder signal. It says, my identity is stable enough inside that I don't need to write it on its skin for you to see it. So the blank arm isn't empty. It's a calculated boundary. It's a history reclaimed. It's an interior confidence that didn't need a trend to validate it. It turns out the blank arm was never empty at all. It was full of something most people just didn't have the patience to build.